Hello everybody, I am doing some Goom slash Katana maintenance. This is an entry level 1045 steel blade. It does have a hamon, but it's not polished enough for it to show up. I was working on an identical one of these swords, and I had some rusting, and I had to use some 2000 grit to get the rust off of it. And being that this is an entry-level blade, there's few things that are handmade. Now, this is either the Suka or the Suba. This is handmade. This is not handmade. All four or five of the blades that I've worked on has this same exact wrist guard. So I'm having to put a shim on this, a C shim, because right there, you see those open spots like that, and it goes like this. That should not be like that. It should be fitting nice and tight. Nice thing is I made some cutout. I don't know if this one will fit on there. This is just a blank, but this will probably fit on nice and tight. See, this is tight. That's supposed to be like that. So this is just a blank though. I didn't want to open up the hole too much, and there's a start. So that's for when I make my own Goom. I have a wrist guard. I actually used one of these as a trace for a template. I'm not sure if I'm gonna hammer that out a little thinner or not, or whatever, but it's whatever. But this is the guard that went on it. Gets this guard. Gets one fancy place your plate. So this goes on here. I'm taking the glue off because it has glue on it, which is terrible. Most starter blades that you get from like China and places like that, it's real katana steel. You can use it as a cutting weapon, but the problem is they're not pinned. So what if you're using this and it comes unglued? Even in training, it's dangerous to use this because it's glued on. Now, I'll have to mark this where the end of this handle is, and what I'll do is I'll drill a hole there and a little bit further down, and then I'll drill a hole here. Now, we're going to go through a process here to show you how this is going to work, because this is tempered too. This right here, this was quenched with the blade, and they did not anneal it because they're not drilling into it. I have to drill into it, and I don't have tungsten carbide bits, so those are really expensive tungsten carbide bits. So I'm going to anneal this, and I'm going to show you how I anneal it without taking the temper out of the blade. This is very important. But yeah, there's the, so yeah. And before I show you the annealing process of the handle, so I can go ahead and drill holes in it, I'll show you one of the other blades that I was working on. It's the same exact blade, same exact handle type. So there's very few things. So that's not handmade. That's not handmade. The blade's handmade. This is handmade, and this is handmade. So this is your standard entry-level sword that you get from a place. It's got no real edge sharpness because it's not been sharpened. It's you know, my instructor's using these as good training weapons. Nice thing is it's tempered, so when you're training with it, you don't have to worry about bending or something like that. So that's what we're doing, and I'll give you an update after I've I'll give you an update once we get to the annealing process of this, so I can drill into it and make this a good set. Okay. Alright, so we've gotten to the part we're making the marks for one there, one there, just like that. So we're going to do that. Everything's nice and tight, doesn't wiggle. There we go. Okay, now we have another part of the process. See, this part came off here. That. So that, like that, and then like that. So you have to make sure these are lined up properly. See, there wasn't a lot of glue in there to begin with. Very little. Well, right there. That's it. That's all they put on there. See. And that's gonna go right there. Just like that. Just like that. And we got is some 5-minute Gorilla Epoxy, which is perfect. My little board here, my little thing, and then my clamp. The clamp's very important because we're gonna put it in there, and then we're gonna lock it down and wait 5 minutes. That's right, only 5. So I'll get back to you on to the next process, which is going to be annealing that over there. So yeah, that's the buckets for, actually. So that's what we got going on. See you in a few. Alright guys, so you are wondering how you're going to drill into one of these swords if you want to set it so that goom or the katana can be maintained properly and you don't have to worry about the handle coming off while you're using it. We have to anneal these 2 areas right here. And then while we're doing that, we're gonna cool the steel off at this point so that we don't have to worry about ruining our goom or our katana. Alright, so let's get this started. You have to keep constantly ladling the water over it or you're going to untemper the cutting edge. In ancient times, they used to make only 1 hole in this area, and they would do that before they actually tempered the blade, if I'm correct. And they wouldn't have to worry about it. Then all they had to do is make sure they hit the mark right when they drilled into the handle. The nice thing is I have heat in the blade already, so now I can go up to this side. All I gotta do is keep it from crawling down this one area and we'll be perfectly fine. Now I'm back down to this area. And once I'm done basically heating this area, then the steel should be annealed enough. I can go ahead and I can drill into it. A little bit more up here. Heated it up enough. Now we just have to focus on keeping it cool from this part on out. So this is important. This area is very important. You don't want the heat to travel down any farther in this. Well, some other questions you might ask: if you soften up the steel enough to drill into it, will it weaken it? So when you go ahead and if you actually ever want to sharpen the sword and use it for cutting purposes, will it bend? Well, the thing is that the Suba and the Suka and the handle and the other fittings are not just there for place your hands on, they're also support structures for your handle. Now, most smiths will do an annealing process for the handle so they can drill into it. Or if they have, I mentioned this earlier in the videos, they have a tungsten carbide bit, which those things are really expensive. And those things are made for cutting to hardened steel. But this won't affect the performance of the blade at all. Once everything's put together, you won't have to worry about this bending. Everything will be able to fit nice and tight. We won't have to worry about anything failing on us. And at any point in time, if someone would want to put an edge on the sword, they would be able to and use it for cutting. Now, because this is 1045, this is not what you would use. This is not a super steel. You can't be jamming this thing into like car hoods like you see on YouTube and other things, because it's not that type of steel. It's not really it's not a superb stabbing instrument. I mean, you could stab it into a torso dummy with a ballistics gel. You could probably do that without really damaging it, but I wouldn't be trying to stab it in anything else. Other than that, this is not a really good thrust. 1045 is not a really good thrusting weapon anyway. 1045 steel. Good for slashing. It'll cut, hold a really good edge. It'll have some decent spring-like quality to it, but definitely not something you want to thrust with. Especially this one. This one's a pretty relatively light, thin blade. Or 1045. Anyways, my master, my 7M, he uses these as training swords. His entry level 1045 katanas. Blades are handmade. For the most part, they have dies, special dies that they use. Now, it's not like a machine die, like it goes through a machine. It's forged by a person, and then they have a handset die, where a person has to manually do it to go over like on a power hammer or whatever. And then they do little fine-tuning things on the grinders and whatnot. All in all, it's a good entry-level sword. The only problem is they glue the handles on. Never be glued on, but they do that to make it cheap. It's easy enough to take the handles off. Once I get the sword back up to the vise, I'll go ahead and I think I'll explain on how I took the handle off. It's relatively easy. See, the thing is, with glue, it doesn't have very good shear strength. It has really good pull. You can pull on it, but shear strength glue is very poor with, which I would never epoxy a handle to a tool to a weapon. The amount of force is being exerted on it. Pretty hot still. You don't want to quench the steel while it's still hot on that side, because you'll harden the steel again and then you'll just ruin your bit and you won't even be able to drill into it. So this is very, 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 very important. Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off because this is going to take another 10 or 15 minutes of cooling. So I'll catch you guys later. Hey everybody, how's it going? So I drilled the holes. Now let's see how well I did. So we're going to go ahead and take like that. This. So I did a good job as far as drilling it. Everything's nice and smooth. Bam. Then this thing. That. This. Alright, now let's see. Oh, check that out. That's good. That's good. We can see through there. Now all we got to do is make ourselves some pins, and we do that with, oh, check this out, chopsticks. So we're using a 3/16 hole. If anyone wants to know, that's what I'm using, 3/16. You can do a little bit bigger, but with these smaller swords, I think 3/16 is more than enough. Because of the length of the handle, you know, and that it is going to be used for training purposes, which is enough to discern that we want the handle to stay on. So I'm using 2 picks. You know, there we go. So fits nice and tight. It's like that. Everything looks good. You know, all I got to do is see, no wiggle there. We got to get rid of this wiggle though. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that. Here's a little process I use where I turn a nail into a C shim, or a C-type shim, kind of like a washer. It's a lot of hand tooling. I have to flatten this out, you know, grind off the other edges. But I'll show you. I'll go ahead and I'll go over the process and show you all the stuff that it takes to keep this from wiggling back and forth this way, because that's what we want to keep it from doing that. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull this handle off. There we go. So that. Oh yeah, I was going to show you how I knocked this handle off, didn't I? Alright, so let's put this handle back on real quick. So let's go ahead. this handle back on. So what I did is I took my trusty wooden mallet, because then we got to come back on this side. What I do is I tap it on this side, but while you do that, you have to hold the bottom and pull when you're doing that. So that's how that's achieved. And this handle, so you want to just good solid wax, just like that. You know, not way out here, just about like this, from here to there, just bap, bap, that, and eventually this handle pops off because glue is weak. It has really bad shear qualities. Pinning the handle to the sword is so much better. You don't have to worry about it coming off while you're training with it. You know, makes it so that it's safe to use. The sword wasn't safe. The fittings are starting to get loose. This was already starting to like slowly come apart, so that was no good. So what I will do next is I will make that little shim there to keep this from wiggling around. Okay. I'll get you back to you later. I'll take pictures of the shim process. Is what I'll do for the most part, because it's a lot of tool work. So I have to hammer this nail out on the anvil, make it into a flat piece. So we do that, and we're gonna take this hammer, and then we're gonna just go bang, 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 right? Make it flat. Well, anyways, we'll show you as it goes. Hey guys, how's it going? So now we hammered this piece out. You're gonna notice when you hammered it out, it's gonna get hot. Well, something happens to iron or mild steel when you hammer it flat like this. What you get is like a case hardened, and it will make it slightly brittle. If you take it to a bending point too far, it will separate. So we have to anneal this with the torch. Alright. There we go. So now we're gonna anneal this. Take the stress out of it from hammering it. It's quite like early in the afternoon or mid-afternoon, so to speak, and it is you might be able to see the colors forming in the iron or the mild steel. Most things, even nails, are mild steel now because of the process we use to make it nowadays. We no longer, there's very few companies that make wrought iron anymore, but this will take the stress out of it by normalizing the steel so that when I go ahead and I put some stress back on it and fold it over to make it into a C-type washer or a V-type washer, that it won't break on me. Now, this is all hand work. It's going to be done with files. Files and a little bit of a hammer. There, that should be good enough. Turn that off. Now we're gonna let that cool down. It's pretty hot. So once that cools down, I'll be able to work it again. I see propane torch works great for heating things up. It will, if I hold it in one spot long enough, it will make the steel actually glow. So it will get the steel up to around 800 degrees, and steel starts to glow at around 800 degrees. And there it is. That's the other part of that process of making the fittings nice and tight on the sword. Hey guys, how's it going? So now I'm making that piece. This is where it's going to get cut off. It doesn't need to go down any farther than this, and it's going to become the centerpiece to keep this from wiggling and moving around. So just take this off of here like that. It's pretty simple. It's flattened out. That's where I'm going to cut it on either side. And it's going to take a little bit of filing, and then it will fit right into that space and keep this nice and tight. Alright. There we go. Now you see the sleeve's going to get, it's just about fitted. Just got to do a little tweaks here and there. And that will keep it from jostling around and not doing what it's supposed to do, which is stay nice and secure, so you don't have to worry about your sword being damaged by its fittings. Okay, so that's what we got. And then I'll go ahead and I'll show you what it looks like after it's all done. Alright. Hey guys, how's it going? So here we are with it's finished. It's got two fitting there. It's nice and tight. Don't have to worry about it coming off. Everything's nice and that, and I oiled the blade and everything, so we're good to go. Korean style goom. Here we are. Yep. Alright. Finished on the goom maintenance. There we go.